Hi, welcome again to Meet RX Success Stories. And I'm Brooke, a coach here. And today I'm going to be speaking to Susan. Thank you, Susan, for coming.
Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you for taking the time to speak to talk to our listeners.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and share your story about your carnivore diet adventure. So I am anxious to hear what brought you to the carnivore diet.
I have rheumatoid arthritis. I've had it for 14 years and I was in remission. So that is not what brought me to carnivore, but I was in a rheumatoid group and a lady in that group was trying carnivore to try to get control of her pain. And we were all like, no, it sounded terrible, just eating meat. And the first thing, in fact, the only food thing a rheumatologist told me was don't eat red meat. That's it. Other than that, he said there's no scientific proof that diet has anything to do with rheumatoid arthritis. So she's going to try this meat diet. We're all horrified. But she comes back 4 or 5 weeks later, pain-free. And she comes back 3 months later and she looks like a different person. Her skin radiates.
Wow.
At that time, I had an Achilles tendon that had blown 8 months earlier, and it was extremely painful. I've been to doctors, but they had nothing to offer me. They said it'll resolve itself. It didn't. And I ride horses, and if anything is going to disrupt my ability to ride a horse, I'm going to do something about it. And this was disrupting my ability. So I wrote to her privately and I said, tell me more about this diet. And she did, and she gave me some references. Dr. ShawnBaker was one of them that I could go look up their YouTubes and learn a little bit. And I did, and I tried the diet. I started November the 23rd, 2018. That foot, I took a picture of it the day I started the diet. It was horrible looking and I could barely walk on it. 7 days later, it was a normal foot. There was no inflammation. It was shocking how fast that resolved. But things that I had going wrong with me that I didn't consider with this diet was gastro. I had a lot of bloat, heartburn, gas. It was so bad that I really worried I had cancer in my stomach somewhere. And I had made an appointment with a gastroenterologist before I started this diet. And the appointment was coming up 2 weeks post the beginning of the diet. Well, my stomach went down. No more bloat, no more heartburn, no more pressure on my diaphragm, no more belching, and just because I wasn't eating vegetables. And when I started the diet, I transitioned. I didn't just leap from mostly vegetarian diet, which is where I was, to a full-on meat diet. I transitioned over 7 days was my goal. But what would happen is I would eat a meat meal and I would feel wonderful. I would eat spinach and I'd swell and bloat and belch and, heartburn. It was obvious. It was obvious where the problem was. So 4 days into my 7-day transition, I stopped eating vegetables and I went straight meat. I took right to it. I did follow some of the doctor's advice about enzymes to help you adapt to eating mostly fat. So that was helpful.
What were those? Can you share what that was?
Yes, absolutely. Lipase, that's for the fat, and protease, which is for protein, ox bile to help, and hydrochloric acid. So I did those all four. Yes, I didn't want the gastric upset that I read some people have, and I had none. I transitioned really well. I did have the constipation the first couple of weeks, and then that went away. And the bowel movements now are so superior. But before I went on carnivore, I was eating a very healthy diet, and I would go 4 to 5 times a day and constantly felt like I had to go, constantly. And that's one of the reasons I had made an appointment with a gastroenterologist. I thought something was very wrong. But by the time I saw him 2 weeks into this diet, I was in such good shape that I just met with him and I said, look, I don't want to change anything at the moment. This seems to be working. Of course, he was horrified. He wanted me on the FODMAP food, which I don't even know what all that is. But I said, let me just keep trying this. I'll come back if it doesn't work. And I never went back. You know, it did work. This diet has worked very well for me.
Can you share with me what were you eating
Before?
your healthy plant-based diet? What was the typical day?
I loved vegetables. Even as a child at school, everybody, when we would have spinach, because when I was a child, we ate real food. They didn't give us junk at school. And when we would have spinach, everybody would give me their spinach. They didn't want it. And it would pile up to here. So I always loved my vegetables. I was eating, prior to carnivore, I was eating spinach, sweet potatoes, greens like turnip greens, mustard greens, collards, almost daily. Sweet potatoes, did I mention that? Beets. One of my favorite foods was beets. And all of these foods are high in oxalates.
Yes.
They're very high oxalate foods. I didn't know anything about that. I think I'd heard about oxalates, but I didn't know anything about oxalates. I ate beans, you know, the healthy vegetables, what we consider healthy, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, all the ones that are supposed to be so good for you, the super vegetables. Yeah, I was so sick.
And whole grains. Did you whole grains?
Whole grains? Did I eat whole grains? I actually was gluten-free. So I wasn't, and I'm not really, I never loved bread. I really wasn't a big grain eater. So giving up grains had not been hard. And I actually had done that before I came to this diet.
So you weren't eating rice and
I was eating rice. I did eat rice, but mostly I wasn't that much into the grains. I was into the vegetables and a sweet tooth. Yeah, I love my sweets, but you couldn't have many of those and try to keep weight down. And I was about 170 pounds and I'm 5'4". So that kind of gives you an idea. I was overweight, even though I mostly ate low calorie, healthy foods.
Yeah.
And when I went carnivore, weight was not a thought in my head at all, but the weight fell off.
you were eating those big salads before?
I'm sorry.
Were you eating a lot of big salads?
Before? Oh, yes, yes, yeah. Huge. We loved, my husband and I used to love to make our salads. You know, we cut everything up. We're very whole food people, organic. We were all the things that are supposed to keep you healthy. Yeah. And they didn't, of course. But once I started eating meat, in fact, I had never eaten fatty meat. I had never in my life had a ribeye. And I would have hamburger, but I just barely ate meat at all. And all of a sudden people are telling me, you got to eat 70% fat, 30% protein, eat fatty cuts of meat. And I remember saying, I don't know what that is. What is a fatty cut of meat? And they were telling me, you know, ribeyes, strip steaks. And I went and bought ribeyes, strip steaks, and I ruined so many ribeyes and strip steaks. Oh, no. I had no idea how to cook it. Luckily, I went to Costa Rica with my aunt and uncle, and he's a butcher by trade. And he showed me how to cook these steaks, how to buy them, how to cook them. So my diet got amazingly better once I had gone to Costa Rica with him. But anyway, it was a huge change. My whole family, I think my daughter was vegan at that point, and my whole family was very vegetarian minded. They were freaked out. They couldn't believe I was going to try this diet. And, you know,
what did your spouse think?
I doubt he was real. I think he probably thought I was crazy too, but he's real supportive. He's just one of those men that, you know, okay, honey, give it a try. Whatever.
Well, doesn't he like the steak?
No, he really didn't like red meat at all. Oh. No, he did not at first. Today, he's practically all carnivore. Yeah. I'd say 90% of his diet is meat and a lot of red meat. But 2.5 years ago, no, he was just letting me do my thing and see how it would go. I don't think anyone expected it to work, but it did.
Yeah, that sounds great. And so that first, week when you all of a sudden realized, well, now you don't have to even be bloated. Everything they had said about red meat.
That was instantaneous. Yes. bloat, heartburn. I used to have heartburn so bad. I'd be up in the middle of the night drinking baking soda water every night. And that was gone. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe. I never would have put together the fact that the good vegetables like spinach is what was causing all my gastric issues. I never would have made that connection. But this woman tried that meat diet and did well on it and made me try it. That made me want to try it. And I've done well on it.
She was probably thrilled that now she also had an ally in the group that understood.
Oh, I'm
the whole
sure.
idea.
Yes, yes, that's right. And I still share in that group when I can, and people are more open than they were never rude. I mean, it's a nice group, but they're more on the AIP diet, which is very vegetable based. And so I will throw in there where I can that, carnivore turned it around for me.
Yeah. And now you use the word you probably use the word plants instead of vegetables. No, I mean
Plant.
I
That's
think of
right.
it as plants. These are just
I don't eat
plants.
any plants.
Yeah,
No plant.
plants aren't always happy with being completely consumed, I guess.
No, they're not. And then I had antibiotics almost every year of my life. So I'm sure that wrecked my gut to where it couldn't handle the negative aspects of plants.
Maybe, I don't know, plants have those negative aspects out of just survival.
They did. And I'll let you go ahead and ask the next question. I just don't want us to overlook the perils of coming on this diet, the oxalate dumping.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So what was that like for you?
It was heavy. I had the honeymoon period where the meat diet made me feel like a new person and no gastric upset. Weight was coming off. I slept. Before the carnivore diet, I was an insomniac. After the carnivore diet, I sleep like a baby. So the diet alone changed my sleep tremendously. And it was all good until oxalate dumping began. And I started having a lot of cramping in my feet and my calves that would wake me up in the night. So I then started following the oxalate groups to understand what to do, and lots of magnesium, lots of potassium.
So were you using salts and electrolytes before this?
No, before this diet, I was not.
No, before you were aware of what you're calling
oxalate dumping. I don't think I was broke, but I could be wrong about that. The oxalate dumping began probably within a month.
Because I think that cramping sometimes is from.
Yeah, I did really start. Even the consumption of salt was so foreign to everything I had ever learned.
Yeah.
And I never was a person who wanted salt. You know how some people crave potato chips? That was never me. I was the sugar girl. I didn't care a thing about salt. But when I went on this diet, of course, you need to salt. And
you do, because when you're eating a lot of plants, you are getting salts and magnesium. You're getting magnesium. You're just getting a lot of different salts and minerals from those plants. That's one thing that they do provide.
I always had a swelling. I was always like edema everywhere. So, and it was all over. So it kind of just looked like weight. But once I started the meat diet, that went away. You know how the fluids empty out of the body.
Yeah.
And eating salt liberally, and it tasted wonderful. Of course, I was doing the pink Himalayan salt and this Celtic salt. Tasted wonderful. I would do the salt drinks, and they were delicious. And I just salted. I salted like crazy.
Good.
And the oxalate dumping was about 8 months for me that it went on, and it would come out my eyes, just tons of it out my eyes, some out my skin, and then the cramping in the feet and calves. Once that all passed, I didn't really have any cramping in my feet and legs anymore. So I think the oxalates were on the move.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely with those, with the kind of, debris in your eyes when you wake up is it
was heavy. It was so heavy. Yeah. And then the Vaseline effect where your eyes feel goopy, like you have Vaseline on.
Yeah. So good for you. So you probably ate during your plant, whole food, wonderful plant-based diet days. You probably ate plenty of nuts too, nuts and seeds.
Yes. Yes, that's for a great snack. They were a healthy snack, right?
Yeah.
Almonds were my best friend.
I think
did
nuts are a
almonds.
lot of trouble for us. Actually.
Yes, I did everything the health experts say to do, and it all wrecked my boat. And my husband and I today, we kind of say, if the experts say do this, just do the opposite and you'll be fine.
So what do you eat now?
Well, it's heavy. I'm heavy beef. I will eat chicken. I eat fish. I do dairy, but I don't do copious amounts of dairy because you'll gain weight. You'll get fat. But dairy doesn't give me any issue anymore, and it did when I was plant-based. I don't have a dairy issue anymore.
That's great, because dairy is such a useful, wonderful, nutritious food.
It is, and it's a great, change of pace.
Yeah.
But what I found is that I really love beef.
Yeah.
If I just I eat 2 meals a day. And if I just had hamburger for lunch and a ribeye for dinner for the rest of my life, I don't think I would ever get tired of it. I love it.
Yeah, beef is really an amazing healing food, superfood.
They are. I mean, I can't believe how much they are. It really is. I eat liver. I do try to make sure I get 4 to 8 ounces of liver a week.
Oh, good. So do you just have a dish of liver, or do you make liver pate, or what do you do?
Just a dish of liver. I used to love to cook, and I used to spend hours in the kitchen chopping up all these vegetable dishes because I did everything from scratch. And now I have an aversion to cooking. If it takes more than throwing it in the pan, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
I have some people make their food, their meat. They're on the meat diet, but they make their meat look beautiful. Like I saw one, they made a birthday cake, all carnivore, and it was gorgeous. And all I could think was, just throw that puppy in a frying pan and who cares what it looks like.
And really some of the best looking meat sometimes is just when I throw a steak in the frying pan, for sure.
Yes. Yeah, it was a beautiful cake. I mean, I did admire the work she had done. It was gorgeous, but I just thought I could have thrown those ingredients in a frying pan and been just as happy.
Yeah, steaks over cake. I mean, just a delicious rare filet or ribeye with a candle in it.
I eat more rare than I used to. I'm not raw. I'm not there, but I eat a lot more rare than I used to. We used to cook our lean meat to death. It's a wonder we could eat it.
Yeah, good for you. And do you drink coffee?
I do drink coffee. It's decaf. I mean, I really don't have a coffee addiction. I have a yummy, tasty drink in the morning addiction.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I do too. I drink coffee with cream, although I don't do it on an empty stomach anymore.
I do the heavy whipping cream.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just organic decaf coffee. Of course, I'm still that organic girl, and heavy whipping cream, and I love it.
It sounds wonderful. Actually, it sounds great that it's working for you.
It's so easy. It's I get 30 days. Give it 30 days and see what happens.
Share a little with us about those aches and pains of that of your Achilles.
My rheumatoid story is not quite what a lot of people's is. I came into this in remission, so I didn't have any rheumatoid issues going on when I started this diet. I had the tendon, and I actually had 2. The elbow was a problem as well, but it wasn't visible. You couldn't see it. I could just feel it. Both of those cleared up immediately. My stomach issues, which was really, if I was to rate what's the worst thing, that was it. And then I lost weight rapidly, and I lost 40 pounds total. So I'm about 135 now. And
yeah, that's a lot, especially for someone who's, you said 5'4"?
I'm sorry.
Your height, did you say you were 5'4"?
5'4". Yeah, I'm 5'4". So 135 still sounds like a lot of weight, but I look like I'm 118. I mean, everybody says, you're so thin, you're so thin. And I have to come along and say, I had people ask me, do you weigh 100 pounds? Yeah, I weigh 135, but it doesn't
You look great. Solid, solid.
I think it's muscle. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, talk about the body recomposition.
You want me to talk about my body recomposition?
Yeah.
Okay. I I was overweight. I mean, I was bloated looking and my stomach looked pregnant. It was always out ahead of things. And it was bad. It was really bad. And that all went away. I trimmed right down, fell dress sizes. I think I was a 16 at the time I started, and I'm now a 10. So that just fell off of me, and it was really effortless. I can't tell people. I ate when I was hungry, stopped when I was full. If I wanted a snack, I went back and ate more meat, and that was a little tough. You know, I wanted to get nuts or something more yummy, but I would go back and eat meat. And after a while, you get to where you're not snacking. That kind of falls away, and you just eat your good meals and you're content. But never was I hungry at all through any of this.
So do you usually eat in the morning, a breakfast?
I don't. I usually do lunch and dinner, and I've been trying lately to go to one meal a day. Maybe I'll, maybe it seems to work okay for me, but yeah, my doctor wants me to fast 72 hours a week, and
Why?
can't
Why is
past 50.
why is he saying that to you?
Well, the reason I'm working with him is, let's see, I started this diet in November of 2018. In May of 2019, they found an infected root canal, pulled it, and it triggered my rheumatoid. And I've been trying to get that into remission since then. And so I started working with Dr. Ayers. I don't know if he wants me to plug his name or if you want me to plug his name, but I started working with him. He's carnivore. And so we're working together to try to get this rheumatoid back in remission. And fasting is one of the things he wants me doing. So this is the reason why I'm trying, and I can make it 50 hours and then I'm just dying. I just can't seem to go past 50 hours. So I thought, well, maybe I can just do one meal a day and that'll be almost a 24-hour fast, But so far, 2 meals a day work best for me. I am scheduled to have a dental workup with a dentist who is trained for undoing the dental damage. Clearly, the dental work they did on me triggered my rheumatoid. And she's supposed to be the best in the States for undoing that damage. So that comes up the end of this month, and I'm very hopeful about that. But with the diet alone is not putting my rheumatoid back into remission. I have a severe form of it. And I think when we get this dental work undone, right now I've got a titanium implant in there. And then when they pulled the infected root canal, they didn't take extra precaution. They didn't even put me on an antibiotic. I mean, they did nothing. So that bacteria got loose in my body.
On the implant? On the implanted
Well, that's on the root canal. The implant is 2 teeth ahead of it. We were going to do the implant. That was the plan thing. And in the process, they found this infected root canal, and it had actually eaten away a lot of bone. So there was a good deal of infection going on. And infection can drive rheumatoid arthritis.
Sure.
So when they pulled that tooth, 5 days later, I was in active rheumatoid after 7 years of remission.
And so now, you're doing like a double or triple implant then, because it's the same.
What we're going to do, I'm not really sure what she's going to do, to be honest. I'll have my first meeting with her at the end of end of June, I'm sorry.
But the trouble wasn't with the implant, with the titanium.
Well, I've got one titanium implant in. It's still there. I stopped all the dental work when my rheumatoid activated. I just stopped everything. So I've been walking around without 3 teeth over here ever since, trying to figure out what to do.
That's what I always say to people. I always say, well, yeah, I've been on a plant-based diet for most of my life, and I have the dental bills to prove it.
Absolutely. That's the whole thing about carnivore saying that it's healthy is I could look at my life, which was very plant-based, not meat-based at all, and I could know it didn't make me healthy.
Yeah.
So what was I going to lose by trying to eat only meat? 30 days. It wasn't going to kill me, and maybe it would work.
So
if what you're doing isn't working, try something else, right?
And now it's been 2.5 years. And how do you feel?
Oh gosh, wonderful. I love this diet. I took right to the diet. I didn't have any adaptation problems. I got over the fact that food wasn't entertaining anymore. It's just you eat to survive. You don't live to eat your food. So I got over that quickly. I don't need my food to entertain me, and I don't get tired of it. Meat with butter and salt, I never get tired of that. So it's all been a happy marriage. And then my blood work, I just had my annual physical and my blood work was stellar. Like my cholesterol stays in the normal ranges, which kind of frustrates me a little bit because it's an inflammation fighter. Cholesterol is. And I would actually like to have higher cholesterol, but you got any tips on how I can raise my cholesterol?
Is your cholesterol low, considered low, or is
It's like 160 overall, 160. The ratio is 1.5. So, it's what, my doctors never freak out when they see my cholesterol. They say, well, the diet's not hurting you. My blood work is all really good. Even my kidney protein was like in the low normal. There's nothing. This diet is not hurting me. And my doctors concede that when they see my blood work.
Did your triglycerides drop?
I never had high triglycerides, even though I'm the sugar girl. I never allowed myself to have all the sugar I wanted. But I think it was 63 this time. So, and I've never had a problem with triglycerides. My cholesterol has never been a problem.
So you're eating all animal foods, mostly beef, but you're also eating dairy and fish and
eggs.
Maybe you eat eggs, and maybe you eat some bacon sometimes, but not that much pork and chicken. It sounds like.
I follow the biblical diet, so I don't eat pork or shellfish, which is really sad because on this diet I would love to have shrimp, but I don't, and that's why.
The biblical diet excludes shellfish.
It does.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so those foods are off for me just for personal reasons.
Yeah.
And but I eat like turkey bacon. So when I say bacon, it's turkey bacon.
Or you can also get beef bacon.
I have gotten it. It's not very yummy.
Here, when I get it locally, it's good.
You'll have to share with me what you get, because I was getting Guatney's beef bacon, and it wasn't that tasty, but I would get it anyway because I like to save the grease and use that grease for cooking.
Yeah.
So I would do it anyway and eat the bacon anyway. They've stopped selling it. And if I try to go online and find it, it's like $50 or something.
Yeah, it's pricey. It's a local butcher that I use, so I lucked out.
Well, I should check my local butchers then and see if I can get it. Yeah, I do miss it.
They just happen to make their own at this fancy butcher shop.
Well, with my turkey bacon, I have to add beef tallow because it's so lean that it's not enough fat in it. Chicken used to be a favorite meal of mine. That I would eat a lot of the white meat, right? When I was that healthy vegetarian-minded person, the only meat I ate was white meat, like chicken. And I don't really care for chicken now. I've lost my taste for it.
Yeah, no, I totally get that for sure. Right. It just makes me hungry.
Now, when I came into this diet, I had histamine intolerance issues. And this diet can be high in histamine. So I kind of want to warn the people who are thinking about this diet. It can be high in histamine. So I needed to avoid the aged meats, the aged cheeses, no fermented foods like kefir, yogurt. You couldn't do any of that. After a few months, and I'm not really sure exactly how long, but I would say 4 or 5 months, I suddenly could eat it. I could eat eggs. I could eat the things that I couldn't eat before this diet. So it healed that too. It healed my ability to eat histamine foods. It cleared oxalates out of my body, and I'm sure they were causing me trouble.
And PUFAs and polyunsaturated fatty acids, which cause a lot of trouble.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, like I said, if the experts say do this, don't do the opposite, and you'll be fine.
That's a good rule of thumb. Well, it sounds really good, Susan, and I'm really glad that your friend pranced into the group. And
I need to go back. I haven't talked to her in a long time. I need to, she was a Facebook friend. I need to look her back up and say how I'm thriving on this diet. Maybe I'll send her this podcast.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. As a little thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, here I am.
Well, I'm really happy for you and glad to see you're thriving and you look great and you're still in the horses. The horses are probably even happy about that situation.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I love riding. That's my passion. And anything that was going to prevent me from riding, I was going to try to fix. So that's what brought me to carnivore.
Very nice. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I love your story.
Thank you.
Well, keep driving, Carney on. So nice to meet you.
Definitely going to Carney on. Definitely. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan.